We have been talking about this US dollar daily demand zone since it was formed. And when we had this upward trend line in the daily chart, when it was removed, I was talking about how we're most likely headed down to this daily demand. And I was expecting to see a nice reaction off of this demand zone. Called out in my previous weekly Forex forecast, and it is holding beautifully right now. The question is, why is it holding? Well, if you look at a higher time frame, which is the weekly time frame, you can see not only do we have this weekly demand that's down in control, it is an older zone created back in 2022, but more importantly, these dotted lines here, this is a monthly demand. So what I'm saying here, we have a lot of demand on the higher time frames in control. And in my opinion, that is why we have seen not only a strong reaction from the weekly demand, breaking the weekly downward trend line, and I'm actually expecting to pull up to this weekly supply. I'm not saying 100% it will. What we will be monitoring to determine if that's going to be taking place is this daily chart. Again, as long as this daily demand zone is holding, we could expect price to continue to go up to that weekly demand zone or weekly supply zone that I was just referring to. Over this past week, we did create a nice 1 hour trend line to the upside. That trend line was easily removed when we came back in for a test. And when that trend line was removed, you can notice we have this pretty nice 1 hour supply above at 98.76. So I think if we do push up to this 1 hour supply, I think that's where we could see the US dollar sell off for the day. I'm not saying we're going to get a massive move off this zone. It is possible, but we have to go with the macro and daily demand and control and expect that this is going to break. But I think we will see the dollar sell off here a little bit and then continue the rally. So it's all going to revolve around that 1 hour area of supply. But another thing that's possible is when we first initially contacted the daily demand down below, we did get some sort of 1 hour confirmation zone right here that removed not only an opposing supply, but a downward trend line as well. If you notice, so this is a pretty old zone, but we do have a support trap right before. The zone is very old at this point. So what I would like to see is a push back to this support area. A nice reaction off the support area will be great, proving there are stop losses in here, and I think we will react off of that demand zone to the upside. So if we pull back in the dollar, that's where I think we're headed, down to that 1 hour demand, and we would expect it to hold. And then in the meantime, we are closer to this 1 hour supply. I think we could see a small move off of it before we end up breaking it. The ultimate bullish sign on the dollar, the most bullish sign to prove to us that the weekly demand's holding and the daily demand's holding, what we could expect to see and what I would want to see for the most bullish sign would be some sort of 4 hour trend line. That will be very sustainable upward pressure on the DXY. So this is what I'm going to be looking for next week in the DXY. All right, looking at the forecast for the Euro US dollar. So you can see we have really not much going on here on the daily chart. Sideways price action, not even a good demand zone down below that's relevant. So really nothing to go off of here. But what I noticed is, let's say the dollar drops and, everything I said was wrong about the dollar. Well, then we'll have a nice trend line here if you do break that high, and that'll be very bullish for the Euro US dollar. As far as trading it goes now, we caught a beautiful 1 hour demand zone trade from back here. You can see beautiful rally-based rally. Great move off of that zone. And this was one of the trades that one of the members in the Discord group caught as well. This trade was called out in the daily market breakdown video, which is a forecast I release every day for the Diamond members. If you want to trade alongside myself and the members, join the Diamond membership, where you will have access to the 38-page supply and demand zone PDF, which will be your complete trading guide, the daily market breakdown videos, which are forecasts that I release every single night for the members to trade alongside myself, step-by-step video lessons A to Z, covering everything you need to know on supply and demand trading, the Sunday strategy Zoom session, where members submit homework, and it's an interactive 1 hour call where we go over all of your homework and every trading related question. Private access to myself inside of our private Discord group, where I answer all of your trading related questions. And finally, the Sunday live stream forecast, where we break down over 30 markets together. And it's not just me. Here are some of the members and some of their trades they've been taking lately. Absolutely killing it. And we also have some amazing reviews from some of the past members sharing their experience within the group. So if you're ready to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership today. Links in the description down below. So we really saw the euro fall here. We had a nice 1 hour downward trend line. That was removed, and just like the inverse of the DXY, we have a pretty decent 1 hour zone here. The move away isn't amazing, but it is decent. So if you want to trade this zone, you have two options. Look for longs in this zone. Aggressive trade management is definitely needed, meaning don't go for the highs up here. Don't go for a 5-to-1. 1-to-1, 1.5 to 1, 2 to 1, moving your stop to break even as soon as we get a nice move is smart at a zone like this due to the higher time frame forces that are in control. So that is our pullback for a long trade. The other option is to wait for the zone to be hit, and then you could look for confirmation trades on a 5-minute time frame. That is another option if you don't feel comfortable with just an entry stop and a take profit above. If we end up removing that demand, any supply there would be a pretty decent trading setup. So that's one of the things we'll be looking for throughout the week in the Discord group. If we do get a decent pullback, we have a pretty good 4-hour demand zone here. A little hidden rally-based rally, removed an opposing supply. I like the basing. The move away is fantastic. So if we do pull back on the euro, I think this is where we're going to hesitate. I think we could see a 1-to-1, 2-to-1 move off the zone. I think it will end up breaking, but it doesn't mean we can't be making any money here, right? We just got to be smart with our profit taking, not get greedy, and just look for an aggressive trade management trade. So that's where I think we could be headed in the next week on the euro. If we do pull back, and then a nice move off that zone is most likely going to happen for a nice 1-to-1, maybe a 1-to-2 trade. Alrighty, on to the forecast for gold. We'll start with the weekly time frame here just to show you the recovery we've had on gold. Definitely a bullish sign. Looks like a pretty nice recovery to me. So definitely somewhat bullish here on gold. The daily chart, not really super clear if I'm being honest. And gold just hasn't really been that tradable lately, guys. I'll be honest with you. We had a couple nice trend lines here for day trading longs, and those are both pretty easily removed. What do you notice here? We're just really sideways. So gold right now isn't super tradable, but we did catch a beautiful 1-hour demand zone trade from down here. It was a decent one, quick one. Definitely didn't want to get greedy with a zone like this, but that was a nice trade. Called out, as you can see on the screen, called out in one of the daily market breakdown videos for the Diamond members as well. So as far as gold goes now, I'm really not seeing too many setups, but we have options to wait for. So if we remove this proven area of demand, I mean, look how many times this demand's been, we got the trade off that one, second test, third test. So if we do remove that demand, any supply there is going to actually be a pretty decent trading setup on gold that we could be looking for. If we do push up on gold, what we'll be waiting for is a nice 1-hour trend line. That 1-hour trend line will be our guide for 5-minute time frame longs. And then you want to maybe look to take profit around this 1-hour supply. So if you want to trade at this supply, you can. It's a pretty decent zone. Basing is good. The move away is very good. So I think we could see it's kind of an older zone now. So older zones like this, you don't want to be looking for a massive risk reward. So I think a small move off of that zone makes sense. 1-to-1, maybe a 1-to-2. Aggressive trade management definitely needed off that supply if you want to get in long. If we end up removing that supply, any demand there is going to be a nice long trade opportunity as well. So not seeing too many good setups on gold right now, but we have a nice chart here on the 1-hour chart to see some potential setups next week. So that's what I'd be waiting for next week. Make sure you jot it down in your guys' notes. All right, on to the forecast for the S&P 500. What a recovery on the S&P 500. We did see it slow down a bit here, but 4 very green candles on the weekly time frames. And even if we do pull back, the good thing about this recovery is that we have a beautiful trend line to the upside, and trend lines are very sustainable. That's what I look to see to determine, if a trend is actually going to hold, if we have a trend line or if it's just momentum like this. So the fact that we have this trend line now, definitely bullish. I'm not even scared of getting a pullback because we have a nice weekly demand at 65.47 and even down below at 60.50. So we do have a lot of demand on the weekly time frame down below, as well as this weekly trend line looking very, very bullish here on the S&P 500. On the 4-hour chart, did we break this high? That is the question right now, and we did. So now we have a nice trend line to the upside, or a nice trend to the upside. The issue is I'm not going to draw a trend line here, so I don't know how sustainable this trend is going to be. We might have just seen a little bit of liquidity target here at the high. We might see a pullback. If we do, we'd have a semi-decent 4-hour zone down below at 69.19. I think it could be a good area for longs, kind of a small zone, so wider stop definitely needed there. And you could also look for day trading confirmation in there as well. So if we do see a pullback, that's where I think we're headed, down to the 69.19 zone on the S&P 500. On the 1-hour chart, I don't know if anybody remembers, but we were talking about this exact 1-hour zone in last week's weekly Forex forecast, and what a move from the zone. You can see on the screen right now, that is from last week's Forex forecast here on YouTube. So if you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. You're missing out on free trades if you are not subscribed. So hit that subscribe button, like this video. If you guys are enjoying this video so far, much, much appreciated. So you can clearly see the range that we just broke out of here. And with that range break, we have created a pretty decent 1 hour demand zone down below. So if we do get a pullback down to this 1 hour demand, it's pretty good at 71.35. I like zones that remove a range like this. I'm not going to get into detail here, but wider stop I think is needed here for details I'm not going to get into because this is a forecast, not a lesson. But I think the zone could work. Wider stop definitely needed here as well. But that is our nearest demand zone for a long trade on the S&P 500. Moving on to the forecast for the USDJPY, beautiful weekly trend line to the upside, definitely a bullish sign. Even if we do get a pullback, we have this trend line that will kind of act as our support as we continue to look for longs. Even if we do get a pullback, we have a nice daily demand zone down below. This would be a great area to look for a nice swing trade long on like the 1 hour or even the 4 hour time frames down at 156.15. So even if we do see weakness in the yen, I mean, I'll be bearish on the yen until we hit this zone, and then we'll remain bullish at that daily area of demand. As far as trading it goes now, we have an option here. We have a 4 hour zone down below. This zone removed a downward trend line. Really weird basing here in a weird situation with this wick. So if you do decide to get in long at this zone, you can. I just think considering this wick, you don't want to have a super tight stop loss here. You want to give it some wiggle room based off of this situation. So I think we could see a nice move off the zone at 158.29. If you're not feeling comfortable, day trading confirmation in there, definitely an option here as well. On the 1 hour chart, we did remove this 1 hour trend line to the upside today. This trend line was removed. Now we have our 4 hour supply zone above. It's okay. I don't love that we almost push back into it immediately. So I think waiting for confirmation on a 5-minute chart inside of here is preferred. I'm personally going to ignore the zone as a set and forget. For one, it's counter trend, and two, I don't like, again, that we came so close to pulling back immediately. So I think day trading confirmation in the zone on a 5-minute time frame could be good. And then if we remove it, any demand there would be good for longs. And if you remove this proven area of demand, if there's a supply zone there, that would be our supply zone for a short trade here on the USDJPY. All right, on to the forecast for the GBPUSD 4-chart layout here, because I want to show you guys all 4 perspectives. Sideways on the weekly, sideways on the daily, sideways on the 4 hour, sideways on the 1 hour. I'm not seeing any setups right now on the pound US dollar. So what we need to wait for is a significant trend to the upside. We need to see a pullback to create a valley, breaking that high. A trend line here would be a nice guide for 5-minute time frame longs. Until we get that, I am not seeing anything here on the pound. And I take pride on my channel of not saying there's a setup every week. Oh, there's a setup there, because that's what a lot of people do just so that they have something to talk about. That's not me. I'm not going to point out low quality setups just for the sake of it. So if we remove, you should map this high out on your chart. So go to your charts right now, map out this high. If we remove that high, we will have a very nice trend line here. And that trend line will be a guide for 15-minute time frame longs. And yeah, that's really all I'm seeing right now in the pound. Not really seeing any zones, guys. So just be careful on the pound right now. I personally wouldn't be trading it until we can get significant trend lines on the 1 hour or on the 4 hour time frame. All right, on to the USDCAD. This is where I am from, currently living as well. Let me know where you guys are from in the comments down below. And as you can see, we did remove this weekly demand here this past week, creating a weekly supply. I think we could see a small move off the supply. If we're going to see a big move, it's going to be off the supply above, in my opinion, based off of my experience. But, you know, supply and demand kind of acts as a magnet, so that's where we could be headed if we do see some bullishness on the US dollar this week. We do have a couple options here. On the 4 hour time frame, you can see we have a nice 4 hour trend line to the downside here. But if we take a channel tool to this, we got very overextended to the downside, but then we eventually ended up we ended up pushing back towards the channel. So if you want to short on day trading timeframes, you can. You just want to be doing it above the 50% mark of that channel makes more sense to me. We do have a nice 4 hour supply zone above. It's just what's concerning about the supply is that it's very old. So what I would like to see is first of all, if we remove this trend line, any demand there is going to be a nice zone. So that's what we'll be waiting for as swing traders looking to trade the 4 hour time frame. Removing the trend line could create a zone, and that's what we want to see. And if we do get a pullback up to the supply, I want to see a reaction off of this resistance first, proving that there are stop losses up here at that supply, then I think that supply could be good for a quick trade. I'm not saying a 10-to-1 trade or anything like that. I think a 1-to-1, 2-to-1 trade off that zone could be reasonable, especially if we get a reaction off of that liquidity area. As far as near-term zones go, we do have a trend line break here on the 1 hour time frame. Trend line was very cleanly broken. We do have a 1 hour supply above that's mediocre at best. It's really not that great. So confirmation inside of this 1 hour supply would definitely be needed, and a reaction off of this resistance proving there are stop losses up here wouldn't hurt as well. But I think we could see maybe a 1-to-1, maybe a 1-to-2 move off that supply 1.37. And if we end up breaking that supply, any demand there is going to be a very nice trading setup, because what that means is institutional supply has been taken out. Buyers are stepping in. If we have a nice rally-based rally demand zone or something there, that's going to be a nice trading setup. So right now, all going to revolve around that 1 hour supply and the 4 hour downward trend line. All right, on to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. We saw a daily supply beautifully respected. Wasn't really a supply that was on my radar. It was an old supply. It was a good zone, but just way too old for me. But I mean, nice reaction off this daily supply. The reason I keep them on my charts is because I want to see what removes it. Because if a daily demand removes that supply, that's going to be a nice daily demand for a potential swing trading opportunity. Even if we do get a pullback down here, we have a nice little rally-based rally hidden below this liquidity as well. So I think that's where if we do pull back long term, that's where I think we could be headed, and that'll be our next big swing trading opportunity down at that daily area of supply or demand. As far as trading goes now, we had a pretty clean trend line break here on the 4 hour time frame. We do have a very nice kind of a little hidden rally-based rally here. Single candle basing move away is amazing. Support area down below, so I want to see a reaction off of this support, proving there are stop losses here, and then I think the demand zone would be a pretty nice pullback entry for a long trade. I wouldn't be getting greedy with a zone like this because we are bullish on the dollar, so I think if you're going to trade long in this zone, you can. It's just look for a 1-to-1, 2-to-1, maybe a 3-to-1, depending on. You could get lucky, right? Your price could go in your favor, bump your stop off to break even, boom, 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 keep bumping your stop off. You can turn a 1-to-1 trade into like a 3-to-1. It's happened to me, it can happen to you. So if we do pull back, that's where I think we could be headed, and that's where I think our next swing trading opportunity is on the 4 hour time frame. On the 1 hour chart on Friday here, we just barely removed that 1 hour downward trend line. The downward trend line was removed by this demand zone here, but what do you notice about the zone? The wick is massive. I personally will be avoiding this trade as a set and forget. I don't day trade, but if I did, you could wait for the zone to be hit. Considering the huge wick, the ugly zone, you could look for day trades inside the zone on a 5-minute time frame. I think that's reasonable, but again, I'd be aggressive with trade management. Move your stop to break even after 1-to-1. Take 80% of the trade off at 1-to-1. You don't want to be aggressive with trade management. So I think day trading confirmation inside that zone makes total sense to me. Moving on to the forecast for the USD Swiss. So we have a weekly supply and control. Nice move off that weekly supply. But like I've been saying the last couple weeks, zoom out. I mean, it's so overextended. It wouldn't surprise me to see this weekly supply removed, especially since we are, somewhat bullish on the DXY. I think what is possible as well is we do get a pullback down to that demand on the daily chart. That's where I think we could see a decent move off of. So what you could be doing inside of this daily demand, if we gets hit, look for H1 confirmation. Turn the daily zone into an H1. Get a nice risk to reward trade off of that zone. So that's a pretty promising setup, in my opinion, down below on the daily chart. On the 4 hour chart, I mean, just not really a whole lot going on. Sideways price action. As far as my chain analysis goes, I really don't see too many good zones here. And on the 1 hour chart, we had a nice 1 hour trend line that was removed by a very poor quality 1 hour supply. That's kind of the theme of this week, guys. Not a lot of trading setups, but again, I'm not forcing anything for you guys. I respect my subscribers. I'm not going to point out low quality stuff like, oh yeah, this is definitely a great trade, or that's a zone down there. I'm not going to do that. If there's no trades this week, I'll still do the forecast, but I'll be honest. So hopefully you guys appreciate that. If you're going to trade at this supply, same thing with the USDCAD here. You want to be aggressive, or sorry, the Aussie US dollar. You want to be aggressive with trade management, and I think 5-minute time frame confirmation is better. So which means wait for the zone to be hit, wait for a 5-minute supply zone to be hit, look for shorts in that supply, look for a 1-to-1, 2-to-1 trade, because the zone itself is not great. The move away just barely qualifies in my books. So I think confirmation in there in a day trading time frame makes more sense. If we remove that supply, any demand there would be our preferred long trading setup. So all going to revolve around that 1 hour supply right now on the USD Swiss. On to the crude oil chart. Look at this time frame in the weekly, all over the place, daily chart, all over the place. So before we get into it, however you trade oil, whether it's long or short, day trading or swing trading, whatever you do, aggressive trade management 100% needed here, because oil has been all over the place. We all know what's going on in the world right now. I'm not going to get into detail, but you just don't want to be holding oil and be getting greedy. Okay, so just please listen to me when I say that. There is a supply that removed this 1 hour upward trend line at 99.66. Not my favorite. None of these zones this week are great, to be honest with you guys. I don't like that we came so close to pulling back. So if you want to trade short at this zone, I don't recommend it. I like to keep these zones on my charts to see what removes them. But if you're going to trade short the zone, very aggressive trade management definitely needed. And then 5-minute time frame day trading confirmation is good inside of that supply. But above, we actually have a very good supply zone above. Kind of have some sort of liquidity forming here with some sort of resistance. So it's a good zone. I mean, look at the zone. Compare the two zones, right? Look at the basing. Look at the move away. Amazing. We stayed away very nice as well. Look at the difference between that supply and that supply. So much better. So if I'm just going to zoom out here so you can see the supply. So I think the preferred sell zone is up here at 102.32 or 102.35. And I'm not going to be getting greedy with profit margin there as well. It's the better zone. But again, oil is all over the place. So aggressive trade management definitely needed at that supply. And that's all part of trading psychology, is not getting greedy. And if you guys do need help with trading psychology, check out my podcast, the Stoic Trading Psychology Podcast. It is available anywhere you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube as well. And then if we do get a pullback down below, we have a pretty good demand zone with some sort of support trap down below. It is a gap zone that removed the trend line. So if you do get a pullback, it's an old zone. So I think a liquidity trap here with support is definitely needed. And then I think we could see a nice move off that zone at 87 on crude oil. Last but not least, we are on to Bitcoin. So just a reminder, I've been talking about this for a while. We have a monthly demand and control on Bitcoin. And in my opinion, I don't care what the data is saying. I don't care any of that. That's why Bitcoin is going up, because we have a demand zone on the macro chart in control where buyers, large players, have bought before. That is the concept of supply and demand trading. I think we easily could push up to the supply at 89,380. The good news is we have a nice daily trend line to the upside. We will throw a channel tool on this really quick. Take a look. We're pretty overextended. What do you guys notice? We're pretty much at the top of that channel. So waiting for below the 50% mark are the highest odds trading conditions. It doesn't mean we can't get in long. And I mean, we do have the 1 hour chart is really just not showing much for zones, to be honest with you guys. Nothing that I feel comfortable pointing out to my subscribers. But look at this 4 hour trend line to the upside. Very nice 4 hour trend line. Let's throw a channel tool on this trend line to see where we are at. So we are actually sitting below the 50% mark. So if you're a day trader, you day trade Bitcoin, 15-minute time frame longs are great right now, as long as we are sitting below the 50% mark and as long as this trend line is holding. So basically anywhere in this area is going to be pretty good for longs, but it's got to be on the day trading time frames. A nice 4 hour zone down below as well. I like the single candle basing. Explosive move is very good as well. Liquidity trap before. So a nice reaction off that support would be great. And I think we could see a nice move off that zone at 69,079. And you don't need to be too aggressive with trade management here, because we have macro demand and control. So it's not like we're trading against a downward trend or we're at opposing supply on a monthly chart. We're at monthly demand. So a 4 hour demand could be good for a very nice trade to the upside here on Bitcoin. If you guys want access to my full-length forecast, join the Diamond membership, where you will have access to that, as well as my daily market forecast, the full course supply and demand PDF, and much, much more. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can catch next week's forecast as well. And I always appreciate a like. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.